Hey folks, this is Anne Marie. Wanted to do a little video on Tesla as we step into the weekend. Tesla has been a beast over the months, and it's got to take a breath. I know we all want that one chart that just either goes up forever or down forever. Regrettably, just not how it happens in the market. And so we've got to think about things from a couple of perspectives. First of all, if we look at the daily chart, we're going to see what we've got is really a parabolic expansion event, right? We moved from $40 to $115. That's pretty sizable move, right? That's very, very sizable, actually. And so let's move this down to actually where it belongs, 114.90. And so what we have to think about is, well, wait a second, if I have a parabolic event like this, what is natural? Listen, we can't buy forever. The buyers are going to exhaust. They are. They're going to exhaust. Here's an outside candlestick. We've got a little bit of a volume mountain action running right here. The lower volume seems to be on the pullback area, but see, we've got this gap that's got to fill. That's at 97, 97.95, right? Which happens to correspond to the 23.6. Not a fib level I use very much, as many of you know who follow me, but it is a fib level nevertheless, and people do use it. It's just not one of my favorites. But it also happens to be the midline of the weekly pivot action between the pivot and resistance level 1. Again, these charts are by Motive Wave. I think Motive Wave is awesome, frankly. And so I use them particularly to describe charts to folks that watch any of the videos. So what do we look at? Hey, listen, really likely that this thing comes in to fill the gap. It needs to fill the gap. But more than that, it needs to pull back. So why? Because that's just what charts do. They don't go straight up. They don't come straight down unless there's something cataclysmically wrong. We normally have an ebb and flow, just like wave action, right? And, if you've read the book, certainly you know what I'm talking about from that wave action perspective. It is a critical thing that we learn to understand in the market. Now let's take a look at something at the 1 hour chart. We've got support level 1. We've got the 50 simple moving average on the 1 hour chart, and both of these are getting broken. Why? Probably because we're coming into here. That seems like a very, very natural event, as I mentioned. But after that, then what? Well, here's my thought. This chart does need to pull back. It's got a lot of positive energy. There's a lot of good things going on with Tesla. Big fan of Tesla. Probably been looking at Tesla since about 23 bucks. But nevertheless, it's moved a lot in a short period of time. Even though the company is under a new paradigm shift, it seems, a stock can't do this. There are just so many people in line to buy, and those guys get exhausted. And finally they go, man, I got to take some profit. I mean, this is great. Been on the gravy train forever. Got to close things up. Certainly this is what we did when the chart opened up at $115 yesterday, right? It was time to say, time to go, right? I don't know if it was yesterday or the day before yesterday. All the days run together for me. So now here's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for a rhythm that I can trade. Now if I come in and I see a high and a low and a lower high, that is telegraphing a lower low. And lo and behold, guess what we've got? A lower low. Now, how much lower is it going to go? I don't know, maybe here. Maybe it just fills the gap and begins to pop. The market should have held this level, but it did not. It's falling below it. Maybe trying to blow some stops, but I don't know. All kinds of shenanigans going on in the market these days. You just have to be super careful and stay out of the way. So here's what I want to tell you. A lot of us are new to Tesla, been trading it. It's doing awesome. We're making all kinds of money. It's up there. We're up a lot. What are we doing? It's rolling back. Listen. Some places there are opportunities to trade some stocks particularly well. And after a while, that opportunity drifts away. And you have to wait for the next event, right? That's where Tesla is in my mind. Now, what I would like to see is I'd like to see a bounce into the weekly pivot, and then I'd like to see the failure of that weekly pivot and the VWAP, excuse me, that's a daily pivot, the daily pivot and the weekly VWAP. I'd like to see it bounce up into that area and lose the event. If it loses the event, it is telegraphing a move down into relative congestion and probably a pullback into the weekly pivot. All right? Many times when we lose a weekly VWAP and the monthly VWAP is below us, we traverse at least 50% of the distance between the two levels. And so that puts us maybe right about here. Looks like it's congestion level, but right about there. If we lose it, we'll hit the pivot and we'll move down here. What's my goal trading this stock? I'm just going to stair step this baby down. I want to see a bounce that gives me a formation that I can trade lower. And the loss of this level is going to give me that. In our Platinum membership event, let's show you what that looks like just for giggles. Hang on. All right, so every morning I release a bunch of these and it tells us exactly where to take these trades and how they go. And here's Tesla right here. I have Tesla at the short below 101 or at the rejection of resistance, and it's pulling into these lower levels. Now, if we move that out of the way and we say, all right, well, where was the 101? Oh, wait, it was right here. Nice short, nice and easy. But if it says the rejection of resistance, what that says to me is, hey, listen, if I pop up into my pivot and I can't hold it, or I retest my pivot and I can't hold it, guess what that is? That's resistance. So some of us can get in short there earlier because we're looking for the rejection of resistance rather than the failure of support to take the trade. Some of us like to be a little bit more aggressive. We're going to take the short off the rejection of resistance. Some of us are a little bit more conservative. We are going to take the break off support. All right? And so that's exactly what's going to happen. It's going to step right down through these levels, going to bounce, going to give us another lower high, more than likely, and then we're going to be able to take this trade. Now, the SMIs certainly are telling us that as well, right? Not to mention the fact that this stock is really overextended. People are really nervous about hanging on to these profits. They don't want them to disappear. They want to hang on to them. And it just makes sense. You've got to think about the market in a very simplistic, common sense kind of way. This is not rocket science, and we end up making it way too hard when all we need to be doing is looking at it and saying, all right, I've got a high and a low and then a lower high. What does it mean if I have a lower high? Well, that just means that the sellers that were up here are now down here. What does it mean if I have a lower low? Well, it means that the buyers that were sitting here have moved somewhere to the south. And so as we trade down into that level, we don't really know where they are. The SMI can give us a clue as to when we might bump into them, but that doesn't always give us the case all the time. So we really have to be careful about that. Again, what am I doing? I'm waiting for the cycle that gives me the rejection of resistance and the ability to move further down to see if we can come into these areas. Frankly, this looks like a really pretty area right here. And this looks like a really pretty area right here. And what do you know? There's the monthly VWAP. Might be there. If this thing meanders around, the monthly VWAP will rise and it'll fall into this congestion region right here. Short answer is, looks like downside momentum here. Please do not hang on to your profits in large size if you're going, well, this thing's just going to come into support. If you stare at these charts, hourly, daily, 4 hours, whatever, you don't have to hang on for these bounces. You just pay attention, leave yourself minimally exposed, and just in case it comes out and goes to the moon, but take your profit when it's there, okay? You don't, here's the problem. This is my last thing here. Those of us that trade regular like for a living, the people that are pundits that we watch on television, that we see do this, that, or the other, the guys with the 12-0 accounts chatting it up about whatever it is they're holding or not holding, they trade differently to you and me. Well, they should. We can't trade like them because we do not have the capital that they do, by and large, nor do we have the ability to hang on like they do. But see, they're all we hear, so we think we're supposed to trade like them. And flat out, we're not. We've got to trade a different way. We're small fish in a big pond. So we've got to be just a little bit wiser than the big fish that are trying to blow stops. Okay? So take profit when it's there. Wait for the pullback events. Learn to read your charts better so you can see where potential buyers are hiding and where potential sellers are hiding so that you can keep yourself on the right side of the track. All right? Good luck. Have a great weekend. We'll look at Tesla again next week. I'm sure it's going to be, one big party and a whole lot of panic because, oh my goodness, we've got... No. See, this chart's got to take a breath. It's got to take a breath. The only reason you should be panicked is if you're long from up here and you're holding on, waiting for the stop. What are you going to do that for? Seriously. If you've got an SMI that's sloping downward like this, 9 times out of 10, if you're long, you're sitting on the wrong side of the trade. Okay? So you should be very light here if you are trading around the position, meaning that you've always got some core event sitting there, but you wait for the pullbacks to add and you wait for the spikes to take off profit. That's a very wise way to play this game, certainly at our level. And so what we'll be looking for is the region that it's time to add back. All right? And don't hang on long going, it's got to find support somewhere. That's not trading a strategy. It really is not. You may as well just not have any indicators there and just be doing whatever you feel like. A lot of us don't realize that trading a strategy actually means following a set of rules all the time, right? That's not normal. Okay, that's it, my diatribe, but hopefully you learned something from it because, I bump into a lot of people that have very, very light trading skill and they're trying to trade with people who have way more money and way more knowledge and know how to apply it, and we always end up hearing about stories on the short end of the stick there, and I certainly don't want that to happen to anybody, and so that's why it is I blab like this. So good luck, and I'll see you next week.